Life Stories presents another gripping real-life tale of love, betrayal, and redemption. Jessica Carter had everything: a thriving career, a loving husband, and a bright future. But in a shocking twist, the man she trusted most deceived her, stealing her life savings and vanishing with another woman. Left with nothing but broken promises, Jessica refused to be a victim. Armed with her intelligence and determination, she fought back, uncovering a web of fraud far bigger than she had imagined. How did she turn the tables and reclaim her life? Subscribe now to Life Stories to begin today's story. There is no job in New York. Is there? My voice was barely a whisper as I stared at the email on my laptop screen. Messages between Ryan and someone named Lauren filled my vision, laying bare months of calculated deception. It was all just a lie. Ryan didn't answer. He stood in our empty living room, empty because we had sold everything for this supposed fresh start. His silence said more than words ever could. My name is Jessica Carter, and until this moment, I thought I was preparing for an exciting new chapter in my life. For the past 10 years, I had built a solid career as a financial analyst at Willoughby & Company in Chicago. When Ryan came home 3 months ago, practically glowing with excitement over a once-in-a-lifetime job opportunity in New York, I didn't hesitate to support him. That's what partners do, right? They believe in each other. They make sacrifices for their shared future. So I did what any devoted wife would do. I sold our house, the first home I had ever owned. A symbol of everything I had worked for. I donated furniture that I had carefully chosen, piece by piece. Over the years, I even sold my grandmother's antique mirror, the only thing I had left of her, because Ryan insisted we needed to travel light. Now I understood why he had pushed so hard for me to liquidate everything. How long? I asked, my voice steadier now, as anger began to replace shock. How long have you been planning this with her? Ryan shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting toward his packed suitcase by the door. Jessica, how long, Ryan? I demanded. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. 8 months, he finally admitted. Lauren and it just happened. And then the plan just sort of evolved. I let out a sharp laugh, the sound bitter and foreign even to my own ears. Evolved, I repeated, as if testing the word in my mouth. Like it was some natural progression to systematically destroy your wife's life? I felt sick thinking about how methodically they must have planned this, waiting until I had sold everything. Converted all our assets to cash. Stripped away every safety net I had built. The money's already gone, isn't it? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Ryan sighed and ran a hand through his hair. You'll land on your feet, he said, as if that was meant to comfort me. You always do. That was when something shifted inside me. He was right about one thing. I always landed on my feet. And this time would be no different. As the door clicked shut behind him, I turned back to my laptop and began to type. Ryan had no idea who he was dealing with. We had met 6 years ago at a financial technology conference in Seattle. I remember being impressed by his drive and ambition. He was working for a smaller firm back then, but he had big dreams of making it to the top. What I didn't realize at the time was that his ambition would eventually consume everything, including our marriage. Looking back, I could see the warning signs I had chosen to ignore. The way he always seemed to take more than he gave. When we first got married, I had just received a significant promotion at Willoughby & Company. Instead of celebrating my success, Ryan convinced me to use my bonus to help him start his own consulting business. It's an investment in our future, he had said, his blue eyes full of conviction. I believed him. That was my first mistake, but far from my last. For years, I supported his ventures, both financially and emotionally. When his first business failed, I worked overtime to keep us afloat. When he wanted to try again, I took out a loan against my retirement fund to finance it. Each time, he swore things would be different. Each time, I believed him. My cousin, Nina, had tried to warn me last year. Jess, she had said over coffee, her dark eyes filled with concern. Don't you think it's strange that Ryan never wants you involved in his business decisions? You're literally a financial analyst. I had laughed, dismissing her worries. Of course he doesn't want to burden me, I'd said. Besides, he's my husband. I trust him. Trust. What a foolish word that seemed now. The signs were all there, the late-night phone calls he would take in the garage. The sudden business trips that he could never quite explain. The way he started encouraging me to sell my assets months ago. Claiming we needed to simplify our lives. I had nearly $400 in equity from the house sale. Plus another $200 from my retirement accounts and investments. All of it converted to cash. Just like he suggested. To make the international move easier. All of it now gone. Transferred to accounts I couldn't trace. The irony didn't escape me. I spent my days analyzing financial patterns for multi-million-dollar corporations. Identifying inconsistencies and preventing fraud, yet I couldn't. Or wouldn't. See what was happening in my own home. But as I sat there. In our empty rental house. Surrounded by nothing but packed boxes and broken dreams. Something inside me hardened. I might have been blind before. But my eyes were wide open now. And what I was about to do would make Ryan wish he had never underestimated me. I stared at the blinking cursor on my laptop screen. My mind racing. The betrayal still burned. But beneath the heartbreak, a new emotion was taking shape, determination. Ryan thought he had won. He thought he had taken everything from me. But he had forgotten one thing. I was not a woman easily destroyed. I took a deep breath and started digging. If there was one thing I knew how to do, it was following the money. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I pulled up Ryan's email history. Combing through months of digital breadcrumbs. It didn't take long to confirm what I already suspected. Lauren wasn't just his mistress, she was his accomplice. I found emails, bank transfers, flight confirmations, even hotel bookings in Miami and Los Angeles under Ryan's name. The evidence painted a clear picture, while I had been selling my home. Dissolving my life in Chicago. Ryan and Lauren had been setting up their future elsewhere. The moment of truth came when I found the property deed. It was a house. A beautiful, sprawling home in Austin, Texas. Bought just 3 days ago. Paid in full. With my money. The breath left my lungs in a sharp gasp. My hands trembling over the keyboard. I clicked through the document again. Double-checking the name on the deed. Lauren Mitchell. Not Ryan. It was in her name. A cold realization settled over me. Ryan had not only stolen from me, he had handed everything over to her. My phone buzzed beside me. Breaking the silence. A text from Ryan. I'm sorry it ended this way. I've left signed divorce papers with my lawyer. It's better for both of us to make this quick and clean. Quick and clean. Like ripping off a band-aid. Except he hadn't just ripped away my trust. He had ripped away my entire life. I clenched my jaw and pressed a hand against my chest. Trying to steady my breath. If I let my emotions take over now, I would drown in them. No, I couldn't afford that. I needed to act. First, I called my boss, Linda, at Willoughby and Company. She answered on the second ring. Jessica, are you okay? Her voice was warm, but tinged with concern. No, I'm not. My voice cracked. But I pushed forward. Linda, I need help. I can't come to New York next month for the client meeting because there is no job in New York. I told her everything. The lies. The theft. The betrayal. There was a long pause before she finally spoke. Jessica, I need you to listen carefully. She said, her voice firmer now. What Ryan and his accomplice have done isn't just morally wrong. It's criminal. This is fraud. You need to call the police. Right now. And then, you need to call your bank. My stomach clenched. Fraud. That word hit differently when it was your own life unraveling. Linda wasn't finished. I'm also texting you the number of a good lawyer. Use it. And Jessica, your job is secure. Take whatever time you need. I felt the first tears spill down my cheeks. Not from sadness. From relief. At least one part of my life was still intact. The next few hours passed in a blur of phone calls. First to the police. Then to my bank. Then to the lawyer Linda had recommended. Each conversation hammered home the magnitude of what Ryan had done. But it was the bank's response that finally broke me. Mrs. Carter, I'm afraid the majority of the transfers were authorized by you. The fraud representative said gently. Since you willingly converted and moved the assets, there's very little we can do. I hung up without another word. I had played right into his hands. I had been the one to sign the documents. I had been the one to liquidate my own safety net. And now, legally, I had no claim. I looked around the empty house. Empty because I had stripped it bare. For him. For us. For a future that had never even existed. In the fading afternoon light, I caught my reflection in the window. I barely recognized myself. But as I stared at that broken woman, something shifted in my eyes. Ryan thought I was done. He had no idea what was coming for him. The world outside felt eerily quiet, as if it hadn't yet caught up to the storm raging inside me. The sun had set, casting long shadows across the empty rental house. But I didn't notice. My focus was locked on the glowing screen before me, my fingers moving with precision as I began tracing the money trail Ryan had left behind. I was a financial analyst. I had spent a decade spotting fraud, catching inconsistencies, and unraveling deception for corporations worth billions. If I could do it for them, I could do it for myself. Ryan had made one crucial mistake. He had underestimated me. I started with the bank transactions, the equity from the house sale, my liquidated investments, and even my retirement fund had all been funneled into accounts that I had believed were set up for our fresh start. Now, I saw the transfers clearly for what they were. Strategic moves to separate me from my money before cutting me loose. A pattern emerged. The funds had been split into several accounts before landing in a high net worth investment portfolio under Lauren's name. The largest transaction, $380, had been used to purchase the Austin property. I clicked on the property records again, feeling my stomach tighten. Lauren owned the house, not Ryan. He had given everything to her. Why? Was he planning to disappear? Did he ever intend to keep a penny for himself? Or had she been playing him just as much as he had played me? I sat back in my chair, exhaling slowly. If Lauren was the real mastermind, then Ryan had been nothing more than a pawn in her game. That didn't make him any less guilty, but it did give me another target. I reached for my phone and dialed Nina. She answered on the first ring. Jess? Have you heard from the police? They can't do anything, I said flatly. I signed everything over willingly. It's a civil matter. I could almost hear her grinding her teeth. That's bullshit. They conned you. I know, I murmured, staring at the screen. And I'm going to prove it. Nina hesitated. Jess, I know you. You're in work mode right now. Just promise me you won't lose yourself in this. I swallowed hard. I won't. It was a lie, because I already had. The next morning, I relocated to Nina's guest room, turning it into what looked like a detective's office. Every wall was covered with printouts, bank statements, property records, email trails. My laptop had tabs open to financial databases, public records, and encrypted spreadsheets. Each night, I stayed up late, piecing together every last detail. Lauren had been moving money, transferring funds every 3 days, always in precise amounts. It was a strategy used to disguise fraud, to make transactions blend in and avoid detection. But she had gotten sloppy. The software I used at work would have flagged it instantly. And now, so had I ran her name through multiple databases, looking for past records, anything that might give me an edge. And then, I found it. She wasn't just Lauren Mitchell. She had used at least 3 different last names in the past 5 years. Each tied to short-lived business ventures, lawsuits, and mysteriously vanished assets. My pulse quickened. She wasn't just a mistress. She was a professional con artist. I had thought Ryan was the mastermind. But now, I wasn't so sure. I clicked back to my email and typed a quick message to my lawyer. I found something. Call me as soon as you can. As I hit send, a text popped up on my phone. It was from an unknown number. What are you doing, Jessica? My blood ran cold. They knew. I was getting too close. The walls of the courtroom felt impossibly cold as I sat in the back, watching Ryan and Lauren being led away in handcuffs. There was no satisfaction in seeing them like this, only a quiet sense of justice. They had played their game well, but they had underestimated me. And in the end, that was their downfall. With Ryan's testimony and the evidence I had gathered, the FBI was able to unravel Lauren's long history of fraud. She had done this before, to others just like me. Only this time, She had gone too far. The stolen funds were traced. And while not everything could be recovered, I was getting most of my money back. But more than that, I had reclaimed something far more valuable, myself. A month later, I stood in the doorway of my new home. A modest but beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't as grand as the one I had sold. But it was mine, truly mine. Nina helped me unpack, laughing as we arranged furniture and hung pictures. You know what's funny? I said, smiling slightly. Ryan always told me I was too trusting. Too naive. Turns out, I just trusted the wrong people. And now? She asked. I thought of everything I had learned, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the fight to take back my life. Now, I said, raising a glass of wine to my reflection in the window. I trust myself. And that's enough. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories for more real-life experiences that inspire, shock, and empower.